I will have a public and a private opinion on it. The public is my professional opinion, the private is my personal opinion. And both of those are valid. And if you've found me through Morphogenetic Science, then you do know that I have very different and very emotionally charged personal views. So if you are part of the Morphogenetic community, then I would say that for the evolution of your consciousness and your well-being, just please disregard everything that I say professionally and only listen to the things that I say personally. But I will start with my professional view on it. I have friends in all sorts of sexual orientations, sexual identities. Two of my friends came out to me as gay men when they were in high school. We were in high school. I have friends in polyamorous communities. I don't have a person who's actively practicing polygamy, but polyamorous, definitely. I have friends who have owned fetish clubs, friends who are still part of the fetish scene. I have experimented with very light stuff. And I just wanted to give a little context on it, that I'm not coming from a fetish background, but I have had a little bit of experience around it and a lot of conversations with people who are very much into this kind of stuff. You know, swinger friends, friends who really enjoy having threesomes, foursomes, friends who have friends who are frequenting orgies. You know, I've been to Burning Man. And that's why my personal view is very different on this kind of topic. So, sexuality itself is bombarded from two very different perspectives and point of views. One is the absolute suppression of it, can be called religious indoctrination. The other side is the absolute excitation without healthy outlet. Sexy advertising, sexy media. We are constantly sexually agitated, and we don't usually have healthy, intimate relationships or healthy, intimate settings where we can express our sexual desires. So from one side, we are heavily, heavily excited, and from the other side, we are heavily, heavily suppressed. And even if you're not coming from a religious background, I attended one Bible class ever in my life, and I walked out of it like first week of elementary school. I marched out of that class and I declared it to my mother that I'm never going back. So even though I don't have a religious background, I still have, I'm very familiar with the religious vernacular around sexuality. And things like sodomy that's actually anal sex. Again, I have friends who homosexual friends who live in incredibly loving, caring, sweet, kind relationships. That's their main way of expressing love towards each other. So if we look at all sorts of things that shouldn't be said and shouldn't be done, shouldn't be practiced, it's very easy to have fears around what we're doing, around what we want, what we desire, what we're not doing, if we're doing something wrong, when, especially in the early formative years, in teenager years, when you don't feel like doing something, but there's a lot of peer pressure around it, or maybe you hear stories that your friends are doing certain things and you should be doing them, otherwise you're not a man, you're not a woman, or your partner is the one who's pushing you to do certain things. We gather a lot of muscle memory around the difference between sexual excitation, physical desire, and our internal conscience. Fetish, kink, role play is quite literally the theater of sex. Some people are really into dressing up, playing a different character, imagining certain scenarios and seeing them coming to life, especially when you are in a proper setting. Like when you're at home and you're trying to do a role play, it usually turns out to be just very silly and clumsy, like very clumsy. But when you enter a club or you enter a scene, for the first 20-ish minutes, it can be really exciting. After that, it's all the same stuff. And I'm personally on the other side of the camera. I was part of theater groups when I was in high school, and I really realized that I don't enjoy playing. I don't enjoy acting. I don't enjoy being somebody else. I really enjoy being myself. And I have the same view around toys, sex toys, that I really enjoy the skin. I really enjoy the human body, and anything plastic or silicone or whatever, it just doesn't excite me. But different people have different views on it. So that's why it's my public view that any form of sexuality, any games, any role play, any extensions, toys, any kind of positions, any kind of combinations of bodies is absolutely permitted, because I feel like we have to have a permission to do certain things. It's absolutely normal. And if it's an expression of love, then it is your free will choice to express yourself, your personality, your desires, however you want to. My personal view is slightly different based on where those cultures are coming from and what the consciousness collective is containing as a totality. So I was saying that I have friends who deeply, deeply express love through means that I personally wouldn't. But when they talk about it, they're usually partnerships here. So it's usually just one couple. Polyamorous friends are a little bit different. When they express love through playfulness, even if it involves a certain amount of pain, they do base that role play on consent. They have extensive discussions about what is allowed, what is permitted. They don't just go into it. They prepare for an event. Years down the line, they don't have to have those conversations again and again. But in the beginning, it was definitely a lengthy discussion on what do they actually want, what do they actually desire. And it's still an ongoing discussion with good, healthy couples that if they want to introduce something new into the relationship, or if they are not happy with certain parts of the relationship, if they want to involve another person into the relationship, if they want to have a new position, a new situation, a new fantasy, anything like that, they start with conversation. They don't just surprise each other. They don't push each other to do anything, and they don't force anything onto each other. And they stay incredibly present throughout the entire experience. That if they sense that something is not working, it's absolutely okay to say no in the middle of it. It's absolutely okay to say that, you know what, I actually don't like this. I thought that I would. I gave it a try, and it's not good for me. It's not okay. If anything hurts, if you don't like it, you are allowed to say it, especially if you are in a culture, in a sexual culture, where it's quite okay to switch partners, and you go into situations where you find yourself with a new partner and you're trying out something new and it's all exciting, but at a certain point you feel like that something does not gel with your conscience, you are allowed to stop in the middle of it. You are allowed to say no at any point. And you can feel, you really, really can feel when the other person is not enjoying something. And you don't have to pretend that something is good when it actually doesn't feel okay. Now, that was my professional point of view. Here's my personal one.